a comment about from an attorney.
Hello, I'm Gil Rodgers, a resident of Medfield for the last 25 years, and a frequent producer, director, and interviewer of TV programs on Medfield TV. And today we're at the new Medfield studio, located at the old Strata Bank building at 18 Green Meadows Avenue, just outside of Medfield. And today we're going to meet and talk to a number of the people that were involved in the planning, management, architectural design, interior design, and construction of the new studio. This is going to mean important changes, both for the studio in terms of new technology, new programming, new adventures in videography, but also important changes for the Medfield community. We want to bring adults, students, residents of the community into the studio to participate in working here, volunteering, and actively being engaged with Medfield TV. There's three important points that we're trying to bring out in this program. First of all is the logo itself, community shows. We're going to talk a little bit about that, but what it means is really a new avenue of opening up the studio to the community and bringing people from the community into the studio. The second point is the space itself, the studio, how it's designed, how it's laid out, the new technologies that are going to be used here, the types of influence that's going to have on programming and the content of the studio. So you should look for these changes over the next year. And then the third point is the location. We're located right here in the center pretty much of Medfield. It's a very inviting space for people to come to. It's a fun and active place for people to work and to volunteer. It's a huge change from the more crowded conditions that we had at the high school. So to start us out, we're going to first of all meet with David Maxson, who's the president of Medfield TV and a long-term volunteer with the studio, and has been involved intimately in all aspects of the studio. David, first question I'd like to ask you is what has been your vision for the new studio?
Well, when I first came to Medfield TV, I noticed that we were cramped in this little closet space by the loading dock at the high school.
Right.
And a lot of really good work was being done there, but it was really not fit for our employees and not really welcoming to our guests. That really wasn't handicap accessible either. So the idea was to bring the TV station out in the open, in a place where the entire community would see it, would realize that they're welcome to visit and participate. I think something people may not recognize is that Medfield TV is funded by all of the subscribers to cable TV in the town of Medfield. And every Medfield cable TV subscriber is a member of Medfield TV and is welcome to come in and participate in any way they choose.
What about this location? How did you pick this particular location in Medfield at the old Strata Bank building?
Well, this is a committee process. The board of directors looked at a number of locations around town that were available or becoming available, and we also toured numerous cable TV facilities in other parts of Massachusetts, larger and smaller and similar size operations. And we felt that this was just a really good fit because it was on the street, it was visible, readily accessible with parking, not far from the schools, so kids who do come and participate after school can make the walk through town, stop at their local sandwich shop or whatever, pick something up, and
coffee shop.
Here. Yeah, exactly. And so the place I think is nice and centrally located, and will really be a benefit to the community.
Now, this has been a process going on for what, at least 2 years to do all the planning and management and design of this. Just in summary, kind of what's been your overall experience in going through this long process?
My first thought is that the folks on the board of directors and the staff of Medfield TV have been all very, very positive, very supportive of the idea of of relocating and sort of changing the image of the facility and the operation. It's been really fun working closely with other members of the board of directors to decide on the space, decide how to move it forward, and when we actually signed the lease about a year ago, it was really a very exciting moment for all of us.
One of the questions I think that I have, and a lot of people have, is the funding. I mean, this is a beautiful facility, as we'll see as we walk around. How is this funded?
Well, what we have is a relationship with the two cable TV providers, Verizon and Comcast. They have franchise licenses with the town, and as conditions of those licenses, they fund the public educational and government channels that we operate. So as a private, not-for-profit corporation, we are funded by these fees that subscribers pay. In addition, part of the licensing process includes the infusion of capital for equipment, for operational space and that sort of thing from the two cable TV companies. So our operating budget and our capital budgets are derived from the funds that we receive from those two companies.
Can you give me an idea of what the costs, the capital costs are for this development of this facility and outfitting it, the technology, the equipment, and so forth that goes into it?
Sure. I think one of the things about highly technical kinds of operations like TV facilities is the equipment demands, the lighting, the cameras, the TV equipment, the mixers, just all of the stuff is in itself quite expensive. And then on top of that, we've built out this space, which used to be a bank and is now our industrial broadcast facility. The collective cost of both the electronics and the build-out for the space is somewhere north of $300,000.
Great. Okay. In thinking back, as a management process, what have you found has been the most surprises or challenges in actually managing this type of project?
I'm surprised it took as long as it did for us to get to this point. This has been a glimmer in the eye of some members of the board, including myself, for over 5 years. And then once we signed the lease, we thought, oh, sure, by last fall we'd be in. But there's a lot of design process involved, and a lot of people who are stakeholders in one way or another who have to participate. So that process really got us going at the beginning of this year, when we actually started the construction itself. And of course, when you're doing construction, you have new things that come up and changes to make and that sort of thing that slow the process down. One of which was we took the old drive-through and turned it into a conference room. And this room I'm officially declaring is the Vinebrook Room. And the Vinebrook Room is a place that the community can use if people want to have meetings or other kinds of gatherings. This would be a perfect space for people to come in and have activities that are either directly or peripherally related to Medfield TV's mission.
Oh, that'd be excellent, because I think Medfield needs space like that. I know we're all always running across the need for having a meeting space or someplace to get together with a small group, and having this new option is great. It'll be super. I'd like to ask you a little bit too. You mentioned technology and the electronics, and how do you see technology changing what Medfield TV will be doing in the future? What innovations or what next steps do you think will be able to be facilitated by this facility?
Well, I think one of the big things that's been happening in the last 10 years for all public educational and government TV stations in the area is also happening to Medfield TV, and that is the manner in which programming is distributed. Of course, we have 3 channels of programming, and we fill that with locally produced content as much as we can. But also, there's YouTube. There are ways to put content on the internet so that people can view it on demand, and we would act as the portal for that. Particularly with this new facility, we're hoping that we'll create a new level of energy in the community, get more people involved in doing productions, whether they want to learn how to operate a camera or be a director or a producer because they have a program idea they want to see to fruition. And we're hoping that this space will be welcoming and really kind of engender that sort of creative burst of energy from participants in the community.
Another question I have about technology is I know that the equipment is all high definition equipment, the studio, the cameras, and I know at my home that we get high definition broadband signals coming into our house, and we have flat screen, high definition screens to watch material, and often I'll watch the programs on YouTube. What's the outlook or plan for high definition television here to be able to not only record it, but to be able to broadcast it so people in the community will be able to watch it?
The bottleneck in getting high definition content to Medfield subscribers from this TV station is that the cable companies are operating on their sort of traditional method of using, in the case of Comcast, it's an analog feed, so it's the old-fashioned analog TV signal. And in the case of Verizon at the moment, it's what's called a standard definition feed. It's digital and much cleaner than the analog signal, but it's not high definition. So one of the things that we and other cable TV operations are encouraging the cable companies to do is to bring us up into the 21st century and have these public access channels also be in high definition. And I think that's just a matter of time before that happens. But we have to, continue to press for that opportunity.
Thank you very much for your comments.
Well,
very
thank
helpful.
you for asking.
And thank you for all you're doing for Medfield TV. It's very much appreciated by everyone.
Great fun. Thank you. My pleasure.
Well, next we're going to meet with Aditi Thatte, who is the executive director of Medfield TV, and really responsible very much for the community aspects, the outreach, as well as the programming content. So I'd like to start, Aditi. Thank you for talking with me about this, and I'd like to ask you to explain a little bit about the logo, this new logo for community shows. What does it mean? How is it developed?
Okay, so community shows is sort of, in a way, self-explanatory. So community shows involves all the public, education, and government events that we do. And so it was great to sort of zero in on that community shows tagline. So the concept actually started, one of our board members, Chris Stevenson, introduced us to graphic designers from, let me get this right, Baldwin, Clancy, Rogan, and advertising. So Mike Rogan is the partner and creative director, and Seth Robbins is the one who's designed all of the logo, and they came up with the taglines, and so the two of them worked together and designed all the corporate material, the professional logo, and met with the board to do their presentation. It was all really, high and big, and it was like amazing. It started with that, and they came up with different taglines, and then unanimously the board decided that community shows reflected everything that we do. So that's how that came about.
So an important part of this then is really opening this up to the community, bringing the community into the studio to participate.
Yeah.
Can you just give us some ideas of how, in addition to the new studio, and in addition to the logo and the sign out in front, how you're planning on doing that?
Okay, so as you said before, it's a lot of draw to be bringing people to a welcoming space, to the studio that's more centrally located in Medfield, and where we were previously, visibility was like a big problem for us. We just had to direct people, and it was long, saying that we are behind the school, high school, across the cafeteria. Not that most people knew where that was. But it was kind of, a long shot, and then people would still get lost and go somewhere else. So I think this is huge for us. The visibility was number one when we were looking for the spaces. We wanted something close to town, but not right there, because we need to make sure that safety for the volunteers was number one, and then also we needed a quieter place. With all the trucks and everything on 109, it becomes a little difficult for us to operate. So a lot went on. It was over the years that this was all developed. We looked at a number of properties. Not that, we get a lot of commercial space that's good enough for, that would suit a studio rather, but we just found the perfect place. This space was vacant for a long time.
Now, what about programming? I mean, you're overseeing the programming and the content, which has been very effective, very productive for the studio, which has been fantastic. But here you have all this new facility and all this new space and all. How do you see programming changing over the next year or so?
Okay. As you know, we do a lot of programming, and on an average, in the last 7 years, we've done production programming anywhere between 330, 345, between that. That's an average, and we have done up to 365 a year. And then we have to sort of cut back a little bit because for the staff and the volunteers that we have, we just have to. But we are doing really well compared to all the other our size community access television stations. Mm-hmm. But having said that, programming will definitely be much better in terms of the look and feel because we have the state-of-the-art equipment, brand new everything, the lighting, it's just amazing. Mm-hmm. As you can see, everything is almost in its final stages. And I think that will definitely draw people. It's a amazing, welcoming, inviting space that you'd want to be here and participate. Mm-hmm. And I've had people showing new interest for new series. We'll still keep all the relationships we have with the school, and we'll be continuing to do all of the mm-hmm. programs that we do there. So we'll see a lot more of the studio programs, and then we'll also have the remote community events that we do. So
suppose I'm a student or interested mm-hmm. adult here in Medfield and wanted to get involved with Medfield TV, but have never done anything, have never run a camera, never done an interview, never done been a program director.
Okay.
How do you actually get plugged into this? I mean, what do you actually do to get up to enough expertise so you can do these programs?
Okay. It's just simple. Everything is, you can learn. It can, you don't have to have any experience at all. All you have to do is just contact us at the studio, knock on the door, just come in. And we have experienced producers and hosts like yourself. And I always meet with the producer hosts and go over the basics mm-hmm. with that, where that is concerned, and with any other areas, with the volunteers. And my biggest strength is being a people person. I try to make everyone as comfortable as possible mm-hmm. and don't try to put rules on where, this is how it's done. I work with people's individuality. I respect that. And I respect everybody's creativity and strengths, and see if we can, work together and being as flexible as possible.
But what about the more technical aspects? For example, actually running a camera mm-hmm. or the editing process, of actually being able to use the software to be able to edit a program after it's been recorded. How do you learn that?
Again, it's a process of training. I find that sometimes matching up the interns that we have and the volunteers that we have to the producers and hosts, sometimes, people of my generation are still not very comfortable with everything, picking up on the editing part of it because it's intense. But once you get it, it's easy. And it just seems like the interns, the volunteers, the next generation, they may not know how to explain it, but they pick it up, they just know how to do it. Mm-hmm. So again, it's not discriminating, we're just matching up everyone so that our production rate reflects on that. If someone is not comfortable doing a task like editing, for example, we don't expect you to do that. For example, mm-hmm. you produce and host the shows, but you're also involved in the editing process, but you're not sitting there and doing the editing itself. Right. So I think that makes a huge difference, and that partnership has worked really well for us. Mm-hmm. And it was old school. You were supposed to just come in and learn everything and do it, and that's time consuming, and a lot of times people don't last too long doing that. But I think this helps, and it's matched so well, and I think that's one of the key to our success at the station.
Let me just ask kind of as sort of a summary kind of question. In thinking back over the, 2 years, weekly meetings, all that kind of thing, what's been your sort of major conclusions or major lessons learned from going through this process?
Okay, so for me, I think one of the biggest sort of challenges was everybody would be like, "Are you moved yet? Are you moved yet?" And, I'm like, no. But on a serious note, jokes apart, the biggest challenge is that we had timeline and we decided to get the additional space under the drive-through space outside the new studio, and that sort of delayed construction. And then we had change of plans, and we went big, we went elaborate on everything that we were doing. So I think the timeline for me was big, because we thought we would be done by March, April, and then the February weather delayed everything for us. So there were so many weather related, and then some of it was definitely construction related, not because Premier or the construction company had delayed, but because we kept adding things on. So
I guess one of the lessons learned at it is, no matter how carefully you lay out your timeline, put in a big fudge factor, because it's going to take longer than that.
Yeah. And I don't know if there's any true timeline that you can put on a construction, whether it's big or small.
Yeah.
So for me, at the end, in conclusion, is that I learned to be cool, keep my cool, not like, oh my God, get overwhelmed. Be patient. You have to have the patience of a saint to coordinate everything from the planning process with the feasibility studies that we go back years and then up to now. So I love multitasking and coordinating. So this was, for the last 2 years for me, was a lot of work, but a lot of fun too. I totally enjoyed the process. I met some wonderful people. I feel like I know construction so much more now, and interior design and architecture even, so I don't think I would have had that experience before. So patience, keeping my cool, and ultimately it's like everything happens for a reason. Eventually everything happens for the best, and I think I am so excited, so happy, and I want everybody to come and see our spectacular new place very soon.
Good.
So thanks, Gil, for doing this. I appreciate it.
Aditi, thanks a lot. It's lots of fun working with you.
Thank you.
Okay, next we're going to meet with Jeff Metcalfe, who's from Jeffrey M. Metcalfe, R.A., an architectural firm that's been involved with these types of projects for a long time. Thanks, Jeff, for meeting with us, and you might want to just say a word about your company and how your experience in this area of studios.
Well, thanks, Gill. Thanks for having us. Our firm is actually located in Plymouth, Massachusetts.
Right.
Not that far away, but we do a variety of things. We do commercial work, we do retail work, we do residential work as well. But probably about 8-9 years ago, the first studio we did was in Plymouth for PAC TV, and had a great time doing that one. And executive directors talk to one another, and as it turns out, we've done several of them up to this point. But as an architectural firm, we do other things besides TV studios. But these have all been fun, and we look forward to doing the next one.
Well, we're right here in the entryway to the new Medfield TV studio. So why don't we just take a little walk around and see some of the rooms that people would see as they first come into the building.
Sure, that's a great idea. Yeah, we're starting here in the front entry, and I think what we try to do is you don't get a second chance to make a first impression, as they say. So we feel the entry is really important. We've got some storefront glass here, and we're standing in the vestibule. But as you first come forward, there's going to be some artwork on the walls. There are going to be some monitors in here as well. And you'll be able to see that as you're driving by. The other room we're going to go into next is the control room. And the control room as well has a front window, if you will. So as people are driving by, they'll actually be able to see the heart of the
it's
facility.
Like Good Morning America, huh?
Yeah.
New York City, people walking back and forth and looking in.
Yeah, I've been to Times Square to see that, and it's exciting to see, and you actually see the production as it's taking place.
But this is the control room, is that right? This is where the equipment will be.
Yes, yep. This is where the producers will be, and they'll be looking through the large window here behind me into the studio as a shoot is being produced.
And let's just walk into the studio to get a look at that.
This is probably one of the more difficult things, if you will, in any space that we have, and that's trying to maximize the studio space, because this is what they do, and so what we try to do is minimize the corridor space, minimize the well, everybody needs storage, but this is where it all takes place. So we're trying to lay this out in a way that is efficient and it works well as you're trying to create community shows.
Mm-hmm. Any special considerations from an architectural point of view in how the room is actually designed and laid out?
Well, you generally, in all of these studios, all the parts and pieces are similar. You have a playback room, you have a control room, you have edit suites, you have offices, you have storage and community space or conference room or training spaces. So the idea is to try to put as much of the general public stuff close to the entry, and again to try to maximize the studio space. It generally works better if it's a rectangle as opposed to a square, so that your cameras can be down at one end and you're shooting across to either a set or a backdrop of some sort on the other end. And again, depending on what existing space you have to work with, you have to try to work within the existing space to try to make that work.
Great. Okay, well, let's walk down into the some of the interior space here in the offices. And this is Aditi's office, I think, right here, isn't it, when we come across?
Yep, this is Aditi's office right here, and that is the existing exterior wall. And as executive director, we wanted to try to open the space up a little bit for her, and she gets windows. Yeah. That's one of the perks that you get if you're the boss.
Well, she'll love it after not having her own office. And then down here is this interesting conference room that we've talked about a couple times.
Yeah, this is an interesting space because the TV studio area proper used to be a branch bank, and what we're standing in now used to be the drive-through.
I see. This is where the teller and you deposit your money.
Yeah, exactly. There was an island in here at one point, and you could drive on either side of it. But we took advantage of the structure that was here and essentially infilled the walls to make this training conference space. So it's really nice. We left the exterior brick wall here, and then grabbed some windows to be able to look out onto, my understanding this is Vine Brook out here, so wanted to have some light and a decent view in the room.
When we first started talking, you'd mentioned you've done a number of things like this, community access studios. Well, how did this differ? How did the challenges here differ from some of the other ones that you've worked on?
Well, I think everyone is a little bit different, and it's really trying to work with the existing space that's here and trying to, like I said, maximize the studio space. And this one was a little bit different because this addition actually came after we started. So it was trying to incorporate the doors and the exits and the entries into what we already had designed. I think you have to, each one is a little bit different because it has its own idiosyncrasies. And again, what we try to do is try to maximize the studio space, minimize the hallway space. Out in the hallway here, we do have some edit suite benches, and then we had a separate edit suite.
Let's just take a look at that. That's out back in the hall here.
And the idea was, we couldn't actually create individual offices for each one of these, so we tried to create the hallway and had kind of offshoots out of it, or little pockets, so that people could come in and edit their programs.
So, for example, this will be an editing area. This will be editing space in this area.
Yeah, this is an edit room, and this is actually for some of the paid employees to work in. What's out in this open area is more for the volunteers, but it was a way of trying to keep the hallway open, but also utilize the space so volunteers can come right in off the street and come in and edit the programs they're putting together.
Now, one thing I've heard a lot from Jim and others that work here is storage. You know, as a studio needs storage space. And has there been provisions made for adequate storage?
There's storage. How adequate it is, I mean, I think that's a problem that everybody has. But I think we've tried to maximize the storage space with the space that we had to work with.
For example, and this would be a storage area in here?
Well, actually, no. This is for the bookkeeper accountant. There's a room here, but behind that is the prop storage area.
Okay.
And then behind the edit suite here is also a storage, but it's an equipment room where, again, the general public can come in out of this door right here, come right to this door, and they can distribute equipment to them right here.
So they can get in and out quickly.
Right.
And they don't have to go through the studio if they're doing work up in front.
Exactly. The idea is, again, this is a general public piece, and we want to try to keep it as close to the entries as we can, as you say, to get them in and get them out. So.
Great, Jeff. Thank you. That's a nice tour. We appreciate it very much.
Well, Gil, thank you for having me once again. It's nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, too.
Thanks.
Next, we're going to meet with Wesely Howes, who's from Wesely Howes Interiors for Living. And Wesely, when you first got involved in this, what was the first thing that hit you when you entered into this building?
Well, on that cold February day, I came in the front door and it was all raw space, and I thought, oh my gosh, we should just keep it wide open and airy and kind of hip and groovy, and I thought that it would appeal to not only adults but kids and the whole community. So that's why I thought we'd clean up the ceiling a little bit and put these great lights and paint the ceiling black so it was kind of industrial.
Now, this is as opposed to just having a flat ceiling, right? That a lot of offices would do.
Right.
Your idea was to really open it all up.
Well, exactly. I wanted it to be really airy and also to be a great place to hang artwork on the walls and kind of involve the community a little more by, say, having the children at the high school submit artwork, and we could have shows for them and receptions to get everybody involved and coming in, not just the people that are part of the studio.
Let me just ask, just backing up a minute, how did you get involved with David and Aditi and Jeff?
Well, it's really funny. I was home one cold, snowy night, and I saw this email come in that they were looking for somebody to help with interior design, and without hesitation I said sure, because I was new to Medfield, and I thought it would be a great way to meet people. So that's how it happened. Lucille had put an ad for the Medfield professional group. So,
have you done this kind of work before with a TV studio?
I haven't done a TV studio, but I've done offices and consulted on restaurants, but I mostly do residential. And I think that will show in the kind of furnishings that we've chosen and just the feel of it. I really wanted it to be homey and comfortable for everybody to come and enjoy.
I call it industrial chic.
Yes.
Is that a good term for it or not?
It's a great term. It's a great term. It really has that vibe to it, so it's nice.
Yeah, I was mentioning to Aditi that I used to work down in Faneuil Hall, downtown on the third floor, and they did the same thing. They opened up all of the ceilings, so you could see the pipes and the electrical system and everything.
Well, it adds to that, and here we really didn't have any architectural features, but by leaving it open, it gave a really fun, interesting architecture to the space. And I think that's, they took a beautiful space probably downtown and just showed it off.
And old, it kept it connects you to the building itself. You feel, oh, I'm in this building, and I see how it kind of runs. One of the things that's attractive is some of the lighting fixtures that you picked out. Can we walk into some of the rooms and take a look at those?
Sure. In the conference room, we wanted to have it be a place where you could display art, but also to function for any kind of conferences they were having. We also wanted the space to be able to have art presented here. And the light fixtures we chose, we wanted something fun and interesting, but something that would stay close to the ceiling and not be in the way or people walking into them.
So they're very attractive.
Thank you.
Is there any other kind of features that you would like to point out just about the interior design that you think people would be interested in seeing?
Yeah, absolutely. The ceiling, we imitated the same ceiling in here as you saw in the main spaces. We just brought that element in. It didn't exist here originally, which I think is really fun.
Great.
Yeah. And we also, in some of the rooms, we've put some different fixtures. Say in Aditi's room, we've hung a chandelier. We're putting
let's take a look at that.
We wanted to keep all of the doors kind of raw and not painted so that it would continue to have that same vibe to it. And in Aditi's room, we've put one chandelier. We actually have another one that's coming in, which will kind of give the room kind of a fun feeling for her and just add to the interest in the space.
And again, the lighting is interesting because that's for artwork that would be put up later on.
And the barn doors help to direct it. It kind of gives that same vibe of being a television studio and just kind of adds to that fun feeling.
Great. Thanks so much, Wesely.
Oh,
Great
my
little
pleasure.
tour.
Thank you.
Thank you for all your work here. It's been fantastic.
Oh, I've had a blast. Everybody was so fun to work with. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next we're going to meet with Joe Norte, who is from Premier Construction Company, who is the general contractor for this whole project. And Joe, maybe just to start out, could you say a little bit about Premier?
Yeah, we're general contractors, and we do a lot of commercial work such as this, interior fit outs, and we do light commercial buildings. We've done doctor's offices, dentists' offices, office buildings, tenant fit outs. We do a lot of residential as well. We build new homes, additions.
Where are you located?
We're out of Totnes.
So close by.
Yeah, it's not a bad ride at all, no.
Yeah.
Except that when there was snow on the ground, that was a little bit of a drive, but that wasn't bad at all.
Yeah. Now we're in the conference room again, and you were saying this is one of the rooms that you're particularly proud of, the way it turned out. What were some of the issues in actually doing this room?
Well, it was kind of neat, and I can't recall whose idea it was to add. It was a drive-through. It was a bank drive-through. Yeah. And there was the two areaways where they would drive through, and they would put the tube in. The tube would go up. Yeah. But we had to install another steel beam. We removed that because there were a couple of steel columns, and we put a new steel beam and enclosed what was a drive-through, which was kind of useless to anybody. And they really got a great space over here, and I think they're maybe hoping that the community can use the space. The corrugated metal ceiling was kind of something we kicked around and how we're going to finish the ceiling. And I think it was Wesely that mentioned about let's try to mirror what was in the existing space and have a corrugated metal ceiling. It's a neat looking room. The brick wall and the regular drywall on the other walls. It's kind of a neat looking room.
You're the general. Then you had a number of subcontractors that did electrical and heating and
yes.
Plumbing probably.
Yeah, we did most of the work ourselves, but we sub out to licensed electricians, licensed plumbers that do that sort of work.
Right. Now we've talked with David and Aditi and Jeff and Wesely. What was it like working, you're the contractor, you're the guy that has to build the whole thing. They can talk about it and think about it, but you have to do it. What was that experience like?
Well, we've been in business quite a while, and we've dealt with a lot of different people. I would say, not to brag, but 99.9 or 99, we really aim to make people happy, and they're so pleasant to work with. They're very accommodating. Any issues that came up, it's discussed, and we just try to help them, and they work with us, and the biggest kick that I get out of it is the reaction that I see when they're walking in here. Is progress is going along. It's one thing, because we're still putting studs up and sheetrock, but as it gets closer to the finish, just the smiles on their faces that they're so pleased with the space and how it came out, and excited about moving in, and that means a lot to us. That's how we run the company, is just to make people happy, and it's very rewarding when you see some people come to a space and they're very, very excited, and they see the prints, but they can't visualize it when they see the actual finishes coming together, and they're very excited. That means a lot to us.
Joe, thanks so much. Sure. You've done a wonderful job.
Well, I
love it. Great. And this will encourage everyone to have that same experience, to come into the studio, whether you're a resident or a student or a government official or anybody in the community that just wants to work with Medfield TV and take advantage of this beautiful space. We really encourage you to come in. I've been working with Medfield TV maybe for the last year doing programs, and just find it's a very fun but very rewarding experience. So we really would like to encourage everyone to come in and take advantage of it, and particularly to come to the grand opening and open house that'll be coming up soon. In closing, I'd like to thank Joe and Wesely and Jeff and Aditi and David for participating in this program, and would like to thank Alex for filming it and for editing it, and for Medfield TV for doing such a fantastic job for the community. Best of luck, Medfield TV, in your new studio. Thank you.
The preceding was a production of Medfield TV.